Hi everybody, it's Laura from Green Tree, and I am here today to talk about cooking with fats. Most of the fats we're going to talk about are oils, but there will be a little variety in here as well. Now, if you've done much cooking, you'll know that different types of oils and fats get used for different kinds of dishes. And one of the main reasons for this, besides flavor of course, is the actual smoke point of the oil. The smoke point, and some of you may have discovered this accidentally, is the point where you're cooking and all of a sudden your oil starts smoking. That means you hit the smoke point of the oil. You do not want to heat it higher than that. That's the point where it can start to catch fire. So you want to make sure that you're using the right oil for the right dish so you're not heating it up too high, hitting that smoke point and potentially setting a fire in your kitchen. And I wasn't planning on covering this specifically, but if you do have any kind of a grease fire or oil-based fire in your kitchen, don't throw water on it. The best thing to do is to cover it up. With some kind of a lid or another pan. You could probably pour something like baking soda on it to smother it as well, but cover it. Don't go shooting any kind of liquid at it, water or otherwise. It'll just spread the fire around and make it worse. So, if you have accidentally gone above the smoke point of your oil and set a fire in your kitchen, smother it. Don't try and douse it. There's my safety tip for the day. So anyway, there are a couple different kinds of oils. The first one that a lot of people probably think of is saturated fats. And an example of that would be ghee or butter. You can see that this is going to be something that's solid at room temperature. That means it's a saturated fat. Another example of this that a lot of people have probably used is coconut oil. Coconut oil is also a saturated fat, solid at room temperature. Lard, bacon fat, those are all saturated fats. They tend to be able to tolerate higher cooking temperatures, but they're not necessarily something you would actually want to use for, say, frying, because you could definitely get into a little bit of an issue there trying to fry something in bacon grease. Then we have monounsaturated fats, which would be something like canola or olive oil. These are liquid at room temperature. A lot of the times they will solidify if they're subjected to cold, like in a refrigerator, although usually not completely. They'll still remain kind of sludgy. And these typically can be used at really pretty high heats without breaking down because they do have higher smoke points. And then you have polyunsaturated fats, which are also liquid at room temperature. I don't know if you can see the little bubble moving around in there. But these cannot really be used at high heats. They tend to be better for things like dressings and sauces that aren't going to be subjected to high temperatures. So today I'm going to kind of run through a few of the oils that we have and tell you what they can be used for and what they taste like. The one I'm going to start with, this is a really unique oil. This is called Thrive. This oil is made from algae. And when you think of algae, you probably think of the ocean. But this one is really interesting. The algae that they started with actually comes from the sap of the chestnut tree. So this is I guess a terrestrial algae is maybe how I would describe it. What they do is they put that algae into giant fermenters, the same way you would if you were making wine or beer, and they give them plant sugars, and the algae converts the plant sugars into oil. They press it, and you get this lovely, very clear oil. You can kind of see through here straight to the back label. It's kind of a pale golden color, and this is algae oil. It does not taste at all like the ocean, like you might first think when you hear the word algae oil. It's actually got a very, very mild flavor and quite a high smoke point. So you probably could fry in this, and you can definitely saute and do other kinds of high temperature cooking and searing. But because it has such a neutral flavor, you can also use it in things like this beautiful little chickpea, spinach, and lemon salad that our deli makes. I've got this here today if you want to come down and give it a try. Another high heat oil is grapeseed oil. Now, if you've never tried grapeseed oil, I really like it. It's got a tinted bottle to preserve the freshness, but it's kind of a pale, bright green color, so it's really pretty. If you use it in making natural body care products, it gives it almost a minty color, which is kind of cool, without adding any actual colorings to it. It can be used with pretty high heat. It's got a very high smoke point, and it's got a delicate kind of nutty flavor, which makes me really enjoy it in cold dishes, like salads and other kinds of tossed fruit and vegetable dishes. So kind of a cool flavor, definitely one worth checking out. Then we've got ghee. So I mentioned cooking with butter before. Ghee is clarified butter. The butter has been heated up until the solids kind of rise to the surface and can be scooped away. That's why it's referred to as clarified butter. You can see it's got a semi-translucent look to it, whereas butter tends to be pretty opaque and creamy looking. So you can cook at a much higher temperature with ghee than you can with regular butter. That makes this an excellent option for baking and sautéing. Like the next time you want to sear something, whether that's a meat or a vegetable product, you could try doing it in ghee, and you'll get that nice butter flavor without the risk of burning the butter, because butter can burn at higher temperatures, like when you are searing foods. So ghee is also super popular in Indian cooking. It's a very common fat to find in those types of dishes, and it gives it a really unique flavor. Mostly buttery, but almost a little more nutty because it has been cooked to remove those solids. Then we've got canola. Canola is a pretty mild flavored oil, also similar to vegetable oil in that it doesn't have a ton of strong taste on its own. Canola is one of the common GMO crops, so if that's something you're looking to avoid, then you want to look for one that has either the little USDA organic seal, the non-GMO project seal, or both. If it's organic, it's automatically non-GMO, but a lot of companies go the extra mile and get the secondary certification also. If it is non-GMO certified, that doesn't mean it's organic, but still a good way to go if you want to avoid the GMOs. Canola is something that's great for, I like it for baking and cooking applications where you have to add a liquid oil. Things like pancakes, brownies, cakes, mixes that call for a liquid oil. Canola is a good way to go. Then we have, and canola can also tolerate a lot of heat, so it's a nice choice for frying a lot of the time too. I've definitely used it that way myself. Then we've got peanut oil. This is not a refined peanut oil. Refined peanut oil is great for frying. This sort of more golden, less refined peanut oil has a strong peanut flavor. You can definitely saute in this, even though you might not want to deep fry with it. And because it has that peanut flavor, it's nice in sort of, what's the word I'm looking for, like uncooked dishes where you put it in a dressing or a sauce, and then you get that nice peanutty flavor. And it's also great in stir fries. It adds an extra level of flavor to the dish. Then we have coconut oil. Coconut oil is cool because it's a saturated fat, but it comes in a couple of different varieties. Refined coconut oil you can cook really hot with. Organic virgin coconut oil like this, you're going to want to stick to medium high temperatures because it does have a little bit higher smoke point than the refined version. It does taste really nice. It's got a good coconut flavor, and you can use it to replace butter in most baking recipes. Our deli manager suggests that you use about 3/4 of the amount of butter as coconut oil, and then top off the rest with a liquid fat, something like canola or grapeseed. Otherwise, your texture can be really dense when you're finished if you just one-for-one replace butter with coconut oil. If you don't mind a denser texture, just go for it. If you want to keep that lighter, kind of softer texture that you get from butter, 3/4 this, 1/4 something else like this guy, grapeseed. Then, of course, we got classic olive oil. Most of you have probably cooked with this at some point. Extra virgin olive oil has more flavor, but also is a little more temperature sensitive. You can still cook with it in medium-high temperatures, but I wouldn't go crazy high. If you want to get a slightly more refined olive oil rather than the extra virgin, you can cook at a little bit higher temperatures. You'll have less of that olivey flavor. Obviously, it's great for dressings, but you can also use it in things like for dipping bread as a drizzle over the top of a dish for a flavorful finish when you're using the extra virgin. And then finally, and there are a lot more oils than these, but this is just to give you an idea of the spectrum of available cooking fats and oils. But I've got some flax oil here. Flax is pretty delicate, similar to maybe hemp, in that most of the time it's really better not to heat it very much. This is something that you can use in baking if you want to, but I would probably mix in something else that's a little more heat tolerant. It works great in cold dishes, as a salad dressing. You can use it in a marinade, something where you're going to toss it around and get that flavor in the finished dish, versus using it as an oil to saute things in, because it's pretty easily damaged by high heat. So that's a rundown of some of the basic cooking oils, how you might use each one. If you have any questions about oils that I didn't cover today, feel free to throw them in the comments and I'll get to those later. In the meantime, I hope you guys are having a fantastic Tuesday. Happy cooking. Bye.